Hello, hello! Welcome! We're going to be solving Zipline Islands today. This is a puzzle that we had as a challenge for my viewers to get votes for the upcoming Setter Spotlight 3. Alright, let's get right into it. So we have zippers and uh, parody islands. So zippers are pretty popular, but parody islands not so much. So a zipper basically says that the middle digit of a zipper, say like this one, let's say it's an 8, is equal to the sum of the digits that distance from the center. So these two digits add to 8. So they could be like 3 and 5, for example. These two digits add to 8. So those could be 2 and 6, for example. And these could repeat if we had something like this, double 3, but if they're all in the same column, of course, they can't repeat. Or if we did something like 1, 1, 5, 5. Well, that doesn't work, obviously. You know what I mean. You could do that on here. But anyways, let's get right into it. Oh, right. I forgot the other rule. The other rule is parity islands. So parity islands are these circles. So the circle indicates the size of an island. Orthogonally connected cells of the same parity are part of the same island. Little Benny in the background there. He's looking outside, looking at his brother over there on the windowsill, which I don't have the cam on, but eventually we'll get one of those, I'm sure. Just a robot that follows the cats around. Anyways, so let's say this is an 8, and then we had, I don't know, something like that. One less cell there, I think. Ah, like that. So if we had, oh, I guess we're going to need to make it realistic. So still not realistic. There we go. So if we had something like 2, 4, 6, 6, 2, 4, 8, and then all of these digits around it were odd, so like 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, then that would be a parity island of size 8. And the same would apply, like if this was 5 and these cells were all odd, then these would need to be even to trap that into a size 5 island. We're going to have to use these two things, zippers and parity line, zipper lines and parity islands, to solve this puzzle. This is a puzzle that I set, so I'm going to talk through my solution to it just so people can know what they were supposed to do. Some of it is a little bit, yeah, you know, because I set this in a quite rushed manner, and I had Vebby set it or Vebby test it, so I added this whole line in that isn't necessary for the solution, but is very helpful to see what's going on. Okay, so let's start out with this top left corner. So in this top left corner, we can see that this circle is very interesting because it's in the corner of its box. So it has a lot of room to get it, or a lot of cells that it would need to take to get out of the box. It has these two circles around it, and something you might already know about, or might have already noticed about the parity islands, is that if we had something like this, these would be the exact same number. And we can't have that, not least because they're on the same parity line, but also because I should have used that. I should have had like this and this be on the same parity line, but be circles, and then they can't be the same. I should have used that. I didn't. Alas, maybe a different puzzle. Um, that's such a good deduction. Ah, feel stupid now. Okay. All right, so let's get started with this one where we can see sort of right away that if it's even, it's pretty restricted because you can't have an even with two odds here. So an even number, let's say 4, needs to be the sum of two digits of the same parity. be it two odd numbers or two even numbers. But if I have two odd numbers around here, say it was 4, and these were 1, 3, well then this parity island is of size 1, not of size 4. So we can't ever have this be even and these be odd. So if this was even, these would need to be even as well. But that's also pretty tricky because, like we said before, these can't be the same parity as that because, or these can't be the same parity if it's touching it. So if these were both, either of them were even, then the digit would repeat in that box because it's the same island, so it must be the same size. So these would both have to be odd, which means that we'd be forced to do that. And now this is a parity island of size 4, but there's no way to sum to 4 with two even digits other than double 2, which is going to repeat in the box. So that seems like a very long-winded way to get to this being odd, but sometimes when it's long-winded and it's the very start of the puzzle, it's okay. We'll see later that there's some more long-winded things that aren't necessarily as okay. Well, I don't know. You could be the judge of that, but looking back on it, probably should have made it a bit smoother. Probably shouldn't have rushed through it. Probably won't post this on anything, but other than YouTube, of course, because I've already done that. So this is odd. And another thing we could do is sort of think about the parity of this line, because we know that an odd digit is the sum of an even digit and an odd digit. So we know that these two digits, for example, are, one of them is odd and one of them is even. We don't know which one is which, so I'm just going to give them red and green for now. We're going to say orange is odd and blue is even, by the way. So red and green are my stand-in colors. I don't know what these are, but I know that they're different. And I know that if this one was the odd one, then this would have to be even, because we need to have them be different parity, because if it's odd, then these would have the same digit. So one of these two, either red or green, is odd, which means that the digit next to it is even, which means that this has to be green, because if that's odd, that's even. And if that's odd, that's even. And if that's even, then that's odd. Odd, even, odd, even. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's do an example just to see. So if we put a 5 in there, and this was 1 and 4, this would be the odd digit. So then we couldn't have this be odd, because then it would also have to be 5. So this would have to be even. Let's say 2, because that would have to be 2 if it's even. And then since these two add to 5, this one has to be an odd digit. So we have this coloring always. We don't know which is odd and which one is even, but we do know that these are the opposite colors, and these, well, these are both opposite and these are both opposite, so we can sort of infer. And these are also both opposite, because if that was also green, then these would have the same number, like 2, for example. That has to be red. And now we can sort of think about, okay, so what is this going to do? Let's say red is odd for now. If red is odd, because it doesn't really matter based on symmetry, if green is odd and red is odd, or red is odd, it doesn't really matter what, because of what I'm about to say, then either way, this comes to here. So this is always going to be even. Odd. Yet. I'm going to mess that up so many times. This is always going to be odd. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 odds. Just pretend it's either red or green. Either way, the count is the same. 4 odds. And one of these two is going to have to be odd, because whether we come here, we have to get out, or at least pick up all 5 of the odd digits, which we actually can't do, because if green was odd, for example, we couldn't pick up that digit, because it would then be 5, of course. So we can get at most 4 of the odd digits in this box with either this or this, depending on whether green or red is odd. So then, and these are always going to be the last two because we have to get out, because we have to get at least 5 odd digits because of something that I haven't even said yet. Because if this was a 3, that's what I need to talk about. If this was a 3, woohoo! Then this would be a 1, 2, and this would be a 1, 2, and I don't think that's the case. So this has to be 5, 7, or 9, of course. Sorry, Clark's doing some silliness. You can see Benny's looking over at him, trying to make himself comfortable in a spot that is far too small for him. Okay, so this has to be at least 5. So we have to get at least 5 cells. And because one of these two is the 5th odd in the box, this one is always going to be even. And since this one is always going to be even, that can't be a cell that we take. So then we're always going to have to get out of the box. So we'll have to do something like that or something like that. But this one would be problematic because that would be saying that red is odd. And if red is odd, then that is odd, which would mean that these 2 digits were the exact same, and you can't repeat that digit in the column. So actually, we know now that green must be odd, and red must be even. And of course, that is going to be the last even digit in this box. And we can now see that this is of size 1. So this will either be a 6, 8, or 4. I don't know, I was looking for a higher digit than 8 that was even, and I couldn't find one. And this is either 2, 4, or 6, because 8 would require 1 over here. This will be 3, 5, or 7. And these can be any odd digit except for because it's already in the box. Okay, so now we have 5 odd digits, so we can't really do anything with that, but we can do something with this, because this is only 1 cell right now, and it needs to be at least 4 cells, so we definitely need to take at least 2 of those, and we can take one of these 2, but we don't know if it does more, or if it does less, or we're not sure yet. For now, we're going to focus on, we can pencil mark this as an even digit. We don't know how big it is. It's got some size to it. For now, we can focus down here. So again, similar to these 2 circles, one of them has to be odd, and one of them has to be even. Let's just say red and green again to make that distinction. We don't know which is which. So this digit can't be a 1. So it's at least a 2, so then it needs to be at least of size 2, the island does. So at least these 2 digits are the same parity. It could just be 2, and these could be green. Or I guess odd. But if we consider this, whether this is, if this is even, these are odd, and these have to be odd. But if this is odd, these are even. And these are odd, because an even is always an even plus an odd. An odd digit is always an even digit plus an odd digit, and an even digit would be 2 odd digits plus each other. So these 2 are always odd, no matter what. But that should sort of ring some alarms in terms of this being even. Because if this was even, then, well, it can't be 2. Let's just fill in some options here. Well, it can't be 2, right? Because I don't think we can fill in double 1 into this box. And it can't be 3 because then we would have 4 cells which are 1s and 2s. It can't be 4 because, well, these could also be 2s, but I think 4 is a little bit far-fetched because then we would have 4 cells from 1, 2, 3. So it's at least a 5. So it needs to get at least 5 cells. And if it's even, it needs to get 6 cells. And it's quite trapped. If this was even, then these would both be odd, and it would need to go up. But there's already an even digit in this column. So it could only take these 3 cells, which would leave these 3 cells as odd. Now, The next part requires us to sort of visualize, but I'm just going to put it in for clarity, okay? So if that was the case, the important thing to realize is that this set of cells creates a sort of wall in column 2 and blocks in 2 circles into column 1, one of which must be even and one of which must be odd. If that is the case, one of them is even and one of them is odd, then we have 6 cells to make an even number and an odd number, and neither of these can be 1. And that's predicated on the idea that they can't escape. Well, obviously the even digit can't escape because that would leave 5 even digits in the column, and the odd cell can't escape because that would leave 6 odd digits in the column. So we can at most make it to there, and at most make it to there. So neither of them can escape this column. So that means, and I know this is a lot of a look ahead, but I thought it was really interesting that it created this wall. I thought it was an interesting logical step, but it's a bit too much for a, what if this was even? This is just sort of maybe a lesson in setting, is that it's a little bit too much sometimes. So if there's this wall, then we have to make an odd number and an even number add to 6. Well, that doesn't work. If we tried to do it, we would make this one odd, but then this one would be forced to be odd too. If we tried to make this one even, then this one would be forced to be even too, because we'd have to put an odd cell there to make the count work for the column. So what we can see from this is that if we build the wall, if we make America great again, if we build the wall, then column 1 clues just cannot work. It's just impossible. So this cannot be even. It needs to be odd, and these need to be even, which means that we can input these as odd because that's all the evens in that column. And we can think about what digits this could be. So it could be 2, 4, 6, or 8. We can get rid of 6 and 8 from there. And let's consider if it's 4, or let's consider maybe if it's more than 4. If it's more than 4, then we need it to at least come to here. And if we at least come to here, well then that's all the evens in this column because we needed to add that one for this to get out to be at least a 2, which is now a 4 at least. That's all the even digits in this column. So that would be odd, and that's all the even digits in this box. So that would be odd as well. So actually, we can realize right away that this can't be more than 4. It can be 4 at most. If we go to 4, then we're trapped. It traps us. So this can't be a 6 or an 8. And this can't be 2, of course, as we noticed before. So at this point, it's not super clear what we need to do. We can do some pencil marks, but ultimately we need to start to understand this area. So if we start to understand this area, we can focus in on the interaction between this island and this island, because they're very much linked in the fact that this island is 1 less than this island. So let's consider, when can this be more than 4? Well, it could be more than 4 if it escapes this box, because we only have 2 more cells available to us that can be even in this box. There's already 2 cells that are even in this box. So if there are another 2 cells which are even in this box, they would have to get out of the box in order for it to be more than 4, because if we only have those digits as even, and these were all odd, then that would only be 5, not 6. So to get more than 4, we would need to get out of this box. So let's consider whether we can get out of the box through column 5. That would require using all the even digits in column 5, which creates this giant string of odd digits, which haunted me for a long time. But then I moved this little thing into this column and realized that that puts an even here, forcing this to go over. And now we have 5 digits that need to be even in column 6 to stop this massive island from being more than 10, which again is a bit of a look ahead. But again, I was kind of enamored with this idea of building these giant parity walls that sort of interact with the islands interestingly, which is a difficult idea to wrap your head around. But once you start to understand it and play with it, it makes a lot more sense. So we can't get out of this box through column 5. So the only way we can get out of this box is through box 3. So let's consider how we get out through box 3. We can't use this bridge because there's already 3 even digits in this row. If we put another even digit there, then these are all odd. So, and we can't get through this bridge because then we would need to use a lot more than 2, well, a lot more, 1 more than 2 even digits in this box, box 2. So we have to get out through this bridge if this is more than 4. So we would have to take one of these 2 cells and then that cell. And of course this cell as well. It would be at least 6. Okay. So that's if this is more than 4. Then I started to consider, what if this is 4? That's also really constrained. If it's more than 4, we have to use 2 even digits in those cells. These would all be odd. And if it's exactly 4, we have to use the 2 even cells in box 2 to stop this from being more than 5, because these are linked together. So we would have to make these 2 even. So either the 2 even digits left in box 2 are in these 3 cells, or they are exactly these 2 cells, which means that these 2 cells are always odd, which is interesting. Because now we can ask the question, how could that be 7? If that was a 7, then one of these 2 cells would have to be odd in order to increase the value of this island. But as soon as we do that, we have 8 cells. So this cannot be 7, ever. So we can remove a 7 from there, a 6 from here, which is quite interesting because now this is either 4 or 8. So no more is the idea that we could just come right to this cell and stop. We now would have to continue, which is quite interesting. So now we should consider this zipper, because the question now becomes, can this be even? Could it be 8? Because if we know it can't be 8, then this would have to go through there. And if we know it has to be 8, then of course we could always get this cell to be even. So if this was an 8, then that would have to be a 1, and these would all have to be even, because 9 would be the absolute most. So 8 and 1, and these would all be even. Well, that doesn't work. We have to come through this bridge if we're making this more than 4, and coming through this bridge requires 2 cells that are even, which only leaves 4 odd cells in this row. So in fact, this digit can never be an 8. It of course could be 4, but it can't be 8, which I found very interesting. So then we have to consider, what do we have to consider? We have to consider something. Well, we know that this can't be 4 in a line, because if it was 4 in a line, then this would be odd, and then this would be more than 5, and you can't do that. So either this is 4 and it goes down, or this is 8 and it does that, or something like that. So if either these two are even or these two are even. Now I'm forgetting my own step. um, oh, duh. Duh. If these two are even, then these two are odd. And what's this? This is 9 cells already, which makes all of these even. It's too many evens in this row. So the other way we can look at this is if this is 9, then at least 2 of these. Okay. So if this is 9, either all 3 of these are even, which doesn't work, because if this is odd as well, then these are all even. Or this is not or this is even, and one of these is odd. Or no, because you could have an odd digit in here. I think there's a more elegant way to prove this. Oh, we can never have this be even if this is 9, because we either have these two in or these two in as even. So if these two are in, these two are odd, and we have 3 evens. So that's just what the step is, right? Okay. So then we know that this can't be 8, because then this would be 9, and 9 is problematic for this row. Okay. So then we get a 2, we get a 3, we get a 7, 9 pair, we get a 6, 8 pair. Of course, we just said that these have to be even if that's a 5, so then this has to be a 2, because of course this is a 4. This is another 6, 8 pair. We know that, well, the 4 obviously goes down here, and that can't be a 4, so that has to be odd, which means that this has to be even to match with this odd, which means it is the 4. And that's odd. That has to be odd as well to match with this 4. Or an odd digit and even digit, so I'm doing odd digit. This is 5, 7, or 9. It can't be 5 because that would make this one 1. So it's 7 or 9, which means these are 3 or 5. This is a 6, 8 pair as well. And there's a 2 up here. This 7, 9 in this box can't go in any of those cells, so it has to go up here. And the other 7, 9 can't go in those 2 cells, can't go up here, so it has to go right there. So this we can fill in the row with a 3, 5, and these have to be a 1, 3, or 5. Oh, and this 2, of course, gives us the 4 down here. Gives us, this is more than 4. And this being a 4 forces these up. These have to be odd. That's all the evens in this column, so that has to be odd. Now we have 5. Oh, sorry. This one has to be in. Now we have 5 here. If we included that cell, then this would be 11 cells, so that has to be odd, or sorry, that has to be even. And we also know that this is a 6 or 8. There is a 2 in here, which means that this cell sees, oh, well, this is 2, 6, 8, so we have a 2, 6, 8 triple, meaning this is a 4. And we can also see that this can't be 5 because this has a 6 or 8. That can't be a 1 or a 7 because this is a 4. This is either 1 or 3, depending upon whether this is 6 or 7, or sorry, 7 or 9, and this is 6 or 8. This has to be odd, of course, because that's even, and I think that can be any digit except for 9. Now we turn our attention to this zipper line, which didn't exist before, but now it does, and it makes everything a little bit easier. So the fact that this exists means that we can see if this is an even digit, then this will have to be an odd, or sorry, this will have to be an even digit. If this is an odd digit, this will have to be an odd digit to make those two sum to odd. And the same, the opposite is true here. If this is even, this is odd because they match. And if this is odd, then this is even because they have to be an odd and an even together. So we know that these two are the same parity and these two are different parity. And in fact, we know that these two are a pair of even and odd, so this would be a different parity as well. Now we turn our attention to the 3, 5 over here, and we can see that the 3, 5 over here needs to be stopped in this row. If it wasn't stopped, then these would all be odd, and that would be a disaster. So specifically, we can't let this 3 or 5 island ever touch this cell. So there needs to be an even digit in one of these 3 cells. This even digit combined with an even digit in one of these two means that these two are odd. So then we can clearly see now that this is at most a 6. One of these two will be even and the other ones will be odd. So this is a 6. Means this is an 8. These are not 8s. This is an 8. That's a 6. This being an 8 means that is a 9. That's a 1. That has to be a 1 then. That's a 7 and a 9. This has to be a 5. That cannot be 5 or 1. The 3 or 7 works with 2 or 6. This is now a 1, 5 pair. This has to be a 1 because of this one and this one. And this is a 3, 7 pair. This cell is either 2 or 8. And I think we can maybe get something with this cell. So if this was even, it would have to be an 8. And if it was odd, it would either be a 7 or a 9, but 9 is in the column. So it would have to be a 7 because 3 obviously wouldn't work. Because then we would need 1 and 2 multiple times, and there's not even a 1 in the column. So if this was a 7, then we would need a 2, 5, or sorry, a 2, 5, and either a 3, 4, or a 5, 2. Well, 5, 2 isn't going to work, so 3, 4, but 4 is here. So this can't be a 7. So that has to be an 8. That has to be a 2. These are even. These are odd. And we know that the even digit over here is now a 2 because all the other even digits are in the row, which makes it a little bit easier to pencil mark. So this is going to be a 6 because 6 and 2 add to 8. That's going to be an 8. That's a 6. This is a 3, 5 pair in the column, meaning that down here we have 4, 7, and 9. That, of course, can't be a 4 because then, well, this being a 1 means that this digit plus this digit add to this. If this was also a 1, then this digit plus this digit would also add to this, which means this would be the same digit as this. So this has to be a 5. This has to be a 1. Now these two are the same digit. Could pencil mark that in as pink or something, or maybe a different color than pink. Green. So this is obviously going to be odd, which means that these are all even. So they're 4, 8, or 2 or 6. That can't be 4 or 6. That can't be a 2. 4 plus 1 is not either 7 or 9. So this is either a 6 or 8. This is either a 6 or 8, so that is an 8. So that's 9. And this is a 4, which means that that's a 7 and that's a 4. Color up. This has to be a 3 now. which sums with a 6 to get 9. This now is either a 3 or 7. This is now a 6 because of this 8. Now we can look at 8 in the middle box. We have 4 8s looking in. Gives us an 8 right here. The 2s here give us that there's no 2s here, no 2s here, so that's a 2. These are now both even, and these are now both odd. These 3 cells are a 2, 5, and 6, but 5 can't go there, so that must be a 2. So, and this C is a 2 and a 6, so that is a 5. That must be a 6, and now we can fill these in. It's a little bit easier on the back end, for sure. It's a 4 in one of these two, 6 in one of these two. That's always odd. 6 in one of these two, so that could never be a 6 because there's a 6 on the line already. That is a 6, placing a 6 over here. Now this has to be odd, which means it's either a 5 or a 7 or 9 because it has a 6 on the line. So this digit is either a 1 or a 3. We don't know, oh, we do know which one it is because there's a 3 in the column, so that is a 1, meaning that this has to be a 7. And we need, well, these are both odd, so that has to be even, and it has to be a 4 therefore, so this has to be a 3, meaning this is 7 and 3 and 7. This has to be a 5 to complete the row. This is also odd. Obviously 1 is odd. This can't link up with this, so this has to be a 2. If that linked up with that, then it would be 6 cells, not 5 cells. Can't be more than 5 either. So this is either a 5 like that or a 3 like that. We still don't know. Depends where the 2 goes. Now odd. These are all odd. And they are 1, 5, 7, and 9. 5 is not down here. That's not a 1 or a 9, so it is a 7. These are not 7s. That's not a 1, and that's not a 5. So the 1, 9 pair gives us a 5 here. We can also fill in a 1 in this cell because these 2 cells in the row cannot be 1s. This is now either a 7 or a 9. This is now a 3, 9 pair. 3, 9 pair in here too. This is also a 3, 9 pair. So we can look at this circle and see that we need these 2 cells to both be even. So that has to be a 2 and that has to be a 4. I think only really determines the 2 because the 4 was already placed, but now the 3, 9 pair gives us this is a 7, this is a 3, which we just had from this 2 being there. Oh, so maybe we actually don't need this circle. I think that might be actually useless. Maybe it makes it easier, but I think it might already be resolved with this 3, 9 thing. This is an 8 in the corner, and finally a 9 to finish off. Or wait, got a 5 in the center. And of course I'm going to color these because otherwise I'm a sadist. We'll get rid of the green too. And there we go. That is Zipline Islands, and apparently my webcam broke like 20 minutes ago. Cool. Sorry about that. I'll put in some footage of Benny or something. All right. Thank you for watching that. I think maybe we'll do Sisyphus in a different video, but upload it a day after or something. Yeah, sounds good. All right. Patreon links below, Ko-Fi links below, subscribe, all that, like the video. Bye, have a good day.